One of those characters was Tony Robbins. Now, for me, Tony Robbins is a complex individual. However, he holds many different attributes, or I should, yeah, attributes or characters that I assign to him, right? So if you're thinking of the TV show Bleach, you know, Kenny or Kenpachi, who is one of the officers, kind of reminds me of Tony Robbins. He's this hard guy, so on and so forth, you know, ready for action, etc. And then he has this small little girl that's like, hey, Kenny, so on and so forth, kind of like his wife, Sage, who he loves so much, so on and so forth, that kind of balances him out over time, so on and so forth. But then again, I started thinking more and more, and I was like, you know, in life, one of the things people lose out of anything else is themselves. And that's something that Tony Robbins is great at helping people find, which is, well, what they lost, which is who they were. And in the spiritual world, you have, well, Saint Anthony, and you would say a prayer, oh, Saint Anthony, please come around. There's something missing and it cannot be found. And hopefully you would find whatever it is that you lost. Now, what I just stated as far as the story, how I positioned Tony Robbins to have this Bleach Soul Society squad officer rank, so on and so forth, within Bleach, known as Kenpachi, as well as Saint Anthony, so on and so forth, because of what he's able to do. Ironically, his name is Anthony, but what's it called? Those two attributes, those two characters in a fictional world combined together, for me, create Tony Robbins, and that's how I see him. Now, that would be my artistic rhetoric being put at play to try to get you to understand how I see different individuals at this table. Some people might see King Arthur, some people might see Leonardo da Vinci, and you get to ask these people at this round table what they would do to help you solve whatever problem you're going through. Now, this was a very fun exercise for me because I got to bounce ideas off with the different mindset of these individuals, but it wasn't how do I say this, as accurate as I would like it to be. So I took it a step further and I incorporated AI and told it to act as such a manner. And I created my own roundtable using AI. And then I was able, using all the information and access that it has to the data on the internet, to not only create this roundtable, but to get my answers for the problems that I had more effectively. And not only was it effective, it worked, right? So think about it, right? So when I see Tony Robbins, I see Kenpachi and I see Saint Anthony combined into one, right? Not only is he a spiritual soul society warrior, but he is also a patron saint on the other side that helps people find what they're missing, which ironically would normally be themselves. So this is how I would play it out, and this is how I would describe it to an individual that asked me, well, what is artistic rhetoric theory? How do you apply it? Or, you know, give me an example. So that's one example. Right? Now, as you move forward in life, you get to tell yourself certain stories and certain things, and you also get to tell other people certain stories and certain things. And the question I have for you today is, well, are the stories that you're telling yourself and others the same? Because if they're not, then there's going to be a disconnect, not only when they meet you, but when you get into other and different environments with people that you told a different story to. This is why you should pretty much say the same story to yourself that you say to others, but not only to not create a disconnect, but so that when you go into an environment where everybody knows you, they know your story and they have a baseline to work off of, and it doesn't throw your energy off. Right? I mean, think about it. What did Bruce Lee say about expressing yourself or expressing oneself freely, right? He said, in order to express oneself freely, truthfully, and honestly. Now that, baby, takes, you know, a whole lot, right? Because when Bruce Lee was in his interview, he talks about a martial artist throwing a punch or a Tai Chi master doing Tai Chi, and it looks very slow and graceful. They are expressing themselves in a different manner without words. What artistic rhetoric does, it gets you to apply words in an artistic way using entendre, shorthand, whatever language you want to call it, so on and so forth, and combine it together so you can either get a lot of information across quickly, or you can speak in code code or so on and so forth to other individuals that you're working with, that you're trying to resonate with, because everybody has their own language. If you remember in past lessons when I talked about the medical community, and I said if a doctor came in and said, oh, I had to perform cardiac bypass, so on and so forth, some people would understand it. Other people would know it as heart surgery. So if he came in and said, I had to do heart surgery, then they would probably take it easier than the cardiac bypass, instead of having to ask, well, what is that? And what does that procedure do? And so on and so forth. Because since people are scared of things that they don't know, they ask more questions. If you simplify it, they ask less questions. And one of the things I learned in life is the more simple you keep things, the more complex the brain will make it out to be in order for somebody to understand it. Because, well, let's just face it, over time, people's brains get calcified, and the things that look, well, that are easy look complicated, and the things that are complicated are actually easy. Weird how that works out. Now, I wanted to point out to you guys that this is not going to be a long class, or I should say a long lesson within class, but it's going to get you to start to understand where we're going with art and how we're starting to combine creativity and logic to create such a thing, right? So what is, or I should say, how to apply art in life? Well, the first thing you want to do to apply art in life, and remember, I'm talking about artistic rhetoric theory here, is you want to first seek to understand yourself. You know, when I went on my journey, I literally went through everything. I went through numerology. I went through the zodiac signs. I went through the Chinese zodiac. I even went through other historical books. I went through 23andMe. I wanted to learn everything about me. I wanted to understand who I was and how I play a role in this world that we live in. Right? Then I searched on the internet for a couple things just to put some puzzle pieces together, and I had an epiphany. From there, next step, what you want to do is you want to understand how you communicate best. Now, as I aged, I noticed that some people did not communicate the same. Some people were more auditory, some people were more kinesthetic, some people were more, how do I say this? Literal, right? Or literary, right? People, meaning that they would like to read words more so. So I experimented with poetry. And then I came to the conclusion that if I wanted to get my point across, I can ask people if they've seen a movie or TV show. And then I could go ahead and bounce examples off of that and use it as my soundboard to get my point across, because I could use reference points from movies and TV shows so that people can understand what it is that I was trying to tell them. Because for some reason, the language and the words that I was using was not getting through, because people only saw me through a particular lens, as they would say. The moment I would introduce the movie with certain actors, or the TV show, or the novel, or the book, so on and so forth, then it would take them out of context for a little bit of not just who Michael is, but and it would introduce these other individuals and characters to give them a better understanding of what Michael is trying to say. So that was a combination of things that I would use in order to figure out how I communicate best. Now, yes, this was difficult for me because not everybody watched movies or not everybody read books. Some people didn't do either one of those things, or TV shows, and I quite honestly wondered what it was that they were doing with their life as far as entertainment was going, because they didn't really hang out with anybody either besides work, eat, and sleep. So I was kind of questioning certain things there. But as I went on with life, so on and so forth, I realized that, yeah, this model works for me. I can use movies, I can use TV shows, I can use music, so on and so forth, to communicate, etc., or to create a synonym of what it is that I'm trying to say and how to communicate to others. Because remember, at the end of the day, people want to be felt, heard, and understood. Now, you can be felt and heard, but 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be understood. And the goal in life is to understand. That's where you get the juice out of life, right? You know, you can hear and, you could feel and hear knowledge and wisdom, but to understand it means that you actually grab hold of it and you're able to do more with it, right? Last but not least, once you understand how you communicate best and you understand yourself, you want to invite others to understand you, right? Go out.